Greetings, Guardians, my name is Bife here. No script today, I have notes in front of me talking about everything that we saw, lore-worthy stuff, at least, that came from the Vidoc. And before we get into that, I think there's something else that needs to be said. Thank you. I was not expecting to hit 1 million subscribers yesterday. I don't know if I've ever been expecting to hit 1 million subscribers, but here we are. Every single one of you who has taken the time to sit and watch my content and who has enjoyed it, thank you. Thank you very much. And I am so glad that we got to share this journey together. I'll have a proper video celebrating 1 million out at some point soon, but for the moment, let's continue doing what we all know and love, and let's talk a little bit about the lore and story of Destiny, which I feel is an appropriate topic right now because things are heating up. As a quick note, not showing any Vidoc trailer footage for this first couple of minutes, and that's purely because this is big spoiler territory. Like, if you don't want any spoilers going into Lightfall, do not watch the Vidoc. In fact, it should have probably been a warning a few days ago, but turn off all social media, get under the rock, you know? This is the point in time where everybody needs to choose their own media diet, as it were. I already stated my own spoiler policy out there previously, but there is a very good reason why you won't be seeing any of the stuff we're going to talk about, which is rather monumental in the footage here. In the thumbnails or anything, I'm just going to make sure that absolutely nothing spoiler-worthy is out there, and this is your spoiler warning, so if you've not turned off now, I'm going to assume that you're down to talk about all this, and that you're very much ready to see what's going on. With all of that being said, thank you, and let's begin. So, the Vidoc really does start off with a bang. You see the invasion of Earth there in the background. And you know what? The scariest thing about all of it, I think, is just the scale. You do have the more mundane forces, I think I'd call it, of the Lost City and the Cabal fleets on both sides doing combat. You can see a bunch of different ships in this massive fleet battle, but the backdrop of it is very much the pyramids facing off against the Traveler. And this could mean anything. This grand battle, this invasion of Earth, is apparently the moment we were created for. And so this is the point at which we're going to sit and think about, well, I mean, what do we even do here? Are we here to defend the people? Are we here to defend the Traveler? Or are we here for some other purpose? This is what Bungie is throwing out there. But it's also very clear that this is the key moment in the story for the Witness. Whilst we, as the mundane forces of humanity versus Calus, the Disciple, and all of the others who are serving the Witness, I think that we have our own standard battle to fight. But the Pyramids and the Traveler have paracausal forces aiding and beckoning with each other that are just so strong that it's almost impossible for us to make a difference in that fight. We are essentially the pawns in this. They represent the real pieces on the board. And there's almost nothing that we can do to interact with all of that in this moment, I feel. And you can tell a lot of that because of the fact that Bungie is pulling the Witness squarely into frame for the first time. What does it want and what happens when it finds the Traveler are questions that we've asked for a while now, and they will apparently be answered. The Witness as an enemy is supposed to be much more reserved and much more controlled, and so when the Witness does eventually find the Traveler, it's not necessarily going to be this moment of elaborate celebration. It's not going to be sort of touting great achievements from on the battlements of your enemy's ruined castle. It's probably going to be a quieter, more menacing exchange. The interesting thing here as well is that the Witness is clearly finishing what happened in the collapse, but also it's the fact that the Witness has maybe given us hints through its disciples as to what's going to go on. When it finds the Traveler, things are going to happen. And in particular, I'm going to reference yet again the wall on Rhulk's pyramid, the prophecy wall, parts of which said that the Witness would commune with the Traveler, drink the light, and kill something. Something is going to die if the Witness has its way. Will that actually happen? I don't know, we'll see. But it seems very clear that the Witness, at least in the battle over Earth, is victorious. And I think that it's clear that they're victorious thanks to things that go on later during the Vidoc. We have to free prisoners of the Lost City who have been captured by the enemy. That alone implies that we're in this place where we will lose. The Lost City might be gone. The implications of that are something that we'll go over later on when we talk about Season of the Defiance, but in the moment, it's very clear that we lose. Just the scale of that loss is not what we know. In the meantime, though, Calus has taken a center stage with all of this. Calus is officially now a disciple of the Witness, if that wasn't already clear. Calus has even been transformed. It's clear thanks to some of the logs that we get from Catabases, and also from the Vidoc that we saw at the very beginning of Lightfall's introduction, that Calus was in a very sort of meager and unassuming form. He was physically quite weak and frail when he was previously interacting with the Witness, and now he has been transformed into something different. It's entirely possible that in his ascension to disciplehood, that he has changed and gained powers directly from the Witness, powers of darkness, and as a result his transformation is something that we should not take lightly. Strand is also something that was mentioned prominently throughout the entirety of the trailer, and we got a little bit more of a description of what the power of Strand actually is. Bungie describes it as a web of life, a cosmic web that connects everything around to, something of course that doesn't exist IRL, but therefore was much harder to contemplate in its narrative and development kind of era. It's also a power of darkness, but it's one that is not of the pyramids. It is one that comes from within us as Guardians and has never been tapped into by anyone else. Again, this is a returning detail, but getting clarification again that it's not from the pyramids seems to tie the pyramids more directly to the Witness, and states that again the darkness is a power outside of them. Whether this is something that we find because of a different, neutral, arbitrary darkness power, or whether it's something that we discover on our own, or whether it's something that is primarily discovered by Osiris. All of that stuff that we still haven't discovered. The grappling hook also is something that was talked about a bunch, and apparently it's a melee choice. I think. I don't know, they were kind of confusing about whether it was a melee or a grenade, but it will take up a slot. We're not really here to discuss gameplay details. I'm sure that if you go to Datto or Fallout or anyone else who's covering this, you'll actually get the real answer to that, but it was kind of a confusing thing to hear in the moment, so check again with them. I'm sure they'll have the real answers. Also, more details on Neomuna and the Cloudstriders. Neomuna as a city has existed for hundreds of years, branching off from the rest of mainline humanity during the collapse. They closed off their comms and deliberately isolated themselves to keep themselves safe. This of course means that they have isolated themselves with post-Golden Age technology, and the actual city of Neomuna has many different environments to it, including an arcade lost sector and a beach that has sand literally made out of diamonds, and of course the wide varied cityscapes where you'll be able to swing between all the different skyscrapers. So you've got a lot of stuff going on there. They also yet again mentioned the Puka Pond and said that the mystery would be unraveled, but clearly not here. Yet again we have the smell of fish in the water, but we do not catch our fish. I am sad. Neomuna as a city also plays host to Calus's ship. Now, this is something that I should have mentioned the other day in the video where the Season of the Seraph finale was occurring, but it's clear that the Calus's ship is actually visible in that cutscene. A lot of people asked me, what's that weird ship in the background that's not a pyramid ship? And that ship is Calus's. You can tell because of the little head motif here at the very front and the winged design where it's got these just blocky features at the front. It's very clear that that is what lands in Neomuna, and also that yes, it is Calus's ship. And more importantly, Calus has a name for his new ship. It's the Typhon Imperator, and we will apparently be going into that ship in the process of the campaign of Lightfall, as we try to stop Calus from destroying Neomuna. The Cloudstriders are also going to be there in that effort. There are two that we're going to see in the process of this: Rohan and Nimbus. Rohan is the older of the two, the grizzled old vet, and he is probably the one who is teaching Nimbus, the rookie, much more about what's going on. As for Nimbus, they are described as flamboyant and boisterous. And you know what? That makes me really excited, because we have many grimdark characters in Destiny, and I don't think we have enough fun ones. I think they're going to be a great character to attach to, but also partly because I don't think they're a stand-in for Cayde, but I feel like we've been missing a few Cayde-esque characters for a while. Someone who can remind us that even in the middle of the end of the world, you need a little bit of levity. The trailers also talked a little bit about Tormentors, and talked about how their power is something that should be scary. They have a powerful command of void energies, but also they have a move called Dark Harvest. This is something that I've talked about in previous bits of analysis. It makes me wonder if this is something to do with, again, the Witness talking about how it will drink the light, and how its forces will be able to consume it as well. If a player is caught by Dark Harvest, apparently it's this really sinister, intimate moment with a Tormentor, a boss that is more powerful potentially than you, and that's something we should really be aware of. Tormentors are meant to be the sort of analog to Hive Guardians, but now it seems as though they're stronger. We've always done certain maneuvers that have allowed us a degree of asymmetric power over our enemies. Finishers are a great example of that. Dark Harvest feels like it's the reverse, and it really does put the power dynamic and the paradigm of who is the real devastator on the battlefield back into the hands of the Tormentors. So we'll see what happens with them. They look scary. Now let's touch briefly on the Season of the Defiance. First of all, it's noted that if Lightfall is the war away from home, Defiance is all about the war at home. This is the ground war on Earth. It seems to be taking place predominantly in the EDZ, which for all we know is going to have changed dramatically. We know that Callus's forces are going to be taking a major part in the offensives that we can find in the EDZ, and we also know that we're going to be working to free prisoners and protecting the Last City's people. We'll be working alongside Devrim and Petra to save those people, and it's clear that this is kind of a return to what happened in the Red War. Devrim and a bunch of others will be working to make sure people can get out and find a safe haven of some kind, and this even includes individuals such as, say, Mithrax, who it's clear gets captured thanks to his place in the Vidocq, where he's just stuck in a prison cell at a certain point in time. There's also clearly going to be an Awoken influence because Petra's there and Mara's on the cover and all sorts of other things are happening, but there is also a wildcard going on here. In the EDZ, suddenly there is a sort of temple complex that gets erected out of nowhere. I don't think we've ever seen this location before. I think it maybe is something that just appears out of nowhere. But a pyramid complex on the middle of Earth is something worth investigating, and what happens there is a very open question. I would think this is much more important than players realize at this moment. The reason being is because the seasonal narrative is what carries us forward. It's something that will become relevant as far as the carry-on story into Season of the Deep and whatever comes afterwards. And remember, Bungie is actively doing this now. This was critique that we gave for years, and it's something that they're actively trying to ensure happens. So when you sit there and you look at that pyramid temple, understand that whatever we find in there is probably going to be important for whatever happens next. Especially seeing as it's a darkness complex and, well, Season of the Deep is coming along next. Whether we're going to be tangling with worm gods or the Hive or something else entirely, I don't know. But I can imagine that there may be some kind of tangential link to a dark pyramid complex. So, yeah, that's worth keeping in mind. Bungie has stated that this, of course, is going to be the finale to the Light and Dark saga, but has made it very clear that Destiny is a universe that is about more than that. This is a universe that has more stories that go beyond the Pyramids and the Traveler, and though this conflict has been building storylines for a decade, we're going to be seeing more of it as we go forward. That is something that Bungie has promised, and they've promised that Lightfall will be the start of this. So, that's all we have for the moment, and that's all we have to see. But I think, if I'm to render my final thoughts, this is a very good moment, I think, for everybody to just sort of switch off and turn away from social media and whatnot. That sounds ridiculous considering I've already given my spoiler warning, but really, I feel as though there's not much more that we can truly know. Does that sound weird? I think it sounds weird, but hear me out on this. Lightfall has given us as much information as we're going to get, outside of maybe a launch trailer. So maybe now is the perfect time to go into it knowing all that you might need to know. All of this information is, of course, incomplete. We still don't know what the raid is going to truly contain, although we all have our theories. There was a splash screen of 6 Guardians, which looks as though it's a raid intro. It's unclear what that is, and it's unclear if that's the case, but if it is, well, I guess we'll go ahead and see what happens. Either way, that is our stuff for today. That is the lore of everything we can see in the Vidoc as light falls. In the meantime, though, that's going to be all from me for now. And if you enjoyed this, remember you can go ahead and hit the like button. And if you want more Lightfall content, even if you are going to go ahead and switch off, yeah, this is the time to subscribe. This is a very exciting time to do so as well. And again, thank you for a million. I'll have a video out on that in a few days' time. And hopefully we get to celebrate a little bit more with that. However, if you want to leave your own thoughts down below, comment section as usual is open to everybody. And as per usual, know that regardless of whether you do subscribe or like or comment or not, your viewership as always is quite enough for me. And that in the meantime, my name is Bife. Burodasya Adastra. I'll see you Starside.